I'm Claire Jennings, 34 years old, and 3 nights ago, I watched my sister walk into a candlelit restaurant wearing the dress I'd saved for my engagement shoot right alongside my fiancé. They didn't see me at first, but I saw them the way she leaned into him like she belonged there. The way he laughed at something she said, like I hadn't existed in that exact seat 1 year ago. I didn't cry. I walked to the table next to theirs and sat down. Before I go any further, let me know where you're listening from in the comments and hit that like button. If you've ever had to sit quietly in the room with someone who betrayed you. I grew up outside Charleston in a modest 1-story house my parents still live in. Dad was a school principal. Mom ran a small local bakery. They raised my sister and me on simple rules. Work hard, keep your word, and never take what isn't yours. I believed in all of it, even when life moved faster than we could afford. And Val took the spotlight more often than not. I never questioned that family came first. I was the quiet one, not shy, just steady. While Valora Val was always magnetic, homecoming queen, voted most likely to move to New York, even though she never left South Carolina. Our paths split after college. She stayed close, married young, then divorced even faster. I moved to Austin for work, took my time with love. Built a small interior design business from a rented office over a bakery. That's where I met Cass. He came in looking for help with a client's office space. Ended up staying late just to watch me sketch. He was charming in the way. Slow rivers are unhurried. Always knowing where they're going. After 2 years together, we got engaged on a cool March morning, the kind where spring teases through the windows. It wasn't a big proposal. No photographers, no orchestra. Just him, a quiet ring, and a promise that felt like it had roots. I had already picked the dress for our shoot. Simple ivory with soft folds that reminded me of driftwood on the shore. I let Val borrow it once for a fundraiser, thinking it'd come back the next day. It didn't, and I didn't push the night everything changed. Cassian was humming in the shower while I sat on the couch scrolling through color palettes for a client's living room. His phone buzzed just once. I wasn't trying to check it, but the screen lit up in plain view. Aria Friday, private booth, she'll love it. The sender was Val. My stomach dropped, but my hand moved before my brain caught up. The passcode was still our anniversary. And just like that, the door opened to a different kind of home. Their thread was long, not explicit, but intimate in a way that didn't need to be explained. Dinners while he was working late, little notes that sounded harmless unless you knew what to look for, and then the photo Val in my dress, her hand resting on her hip like it was hers all along. She wasn't just wearing it. She had stepped into my place and closed the door behind her. I put the phone down, exactly where I found it, walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. My hands didn't shake. I wish they had. I picked up my phone, texted someone I hadn't spoken to in a while. "You awake," Elias replied almost instantly. "For you always." By midnight, the dinner reservation was set, same restaurant table 12, just 10 feet from theirs, and on a clean page in my old leather journal, I wrote a single sentence. "Let's see what it feels like to sit next to betrayal and not flinch." By Friday evening, the line I'd written in my journal had played in my head so many times it no longer sounded like mine. I'd said it brushing my teeth, whispered it while locking up the office, repeated it in the car as the city lights blinked past like nothing was out of place. But I felt it in my chest, tight, steady, unmovable. Let's see what it feels like to sit next to betrayal and not flinch. Aria was quieter than usual when I walked in, dimmer, like the chandeliers had been lowered just for me. The maitre d' greeted me with a soft nod, like we were old friends sharing a secret. "Table 12, he said. "Your guest has arrived." I turned and saw Elias already seated, jacket crisp, white shirt, open at the collar, no tie. Just enough polish to look intentional, but not flashy. When he stood, his smile was barely there, more in his eyes than anywhere else. He reached out his hand and I took it. It was warm, steady, just long enough to be noticed if someone was watching. He pulled out my chair, then sat beside me like we'd done this before. He didn't ask how I was. I didn't need him to. A glass of wine had already been poured, white dry, chilled just right. I sipped slowly, let the edge of it cool the back of my throat. My dress was black, simple-fitted. Not the kind Val would have picked. She preferred things that shimmered. Mine didn't shine. It just held its shape. Elias leaned close. "You sure about this?" I nodded once, since the minute she wore my dress. At 7:12, Cass walked in. He paused just past the hostess stand, scanning the room like he was trying not to look like he was searching. He had on the shirt I gave him last Christmas, the one with the soft collar he said made him feel more like himself. His hair was styled the same way I used to comb it back for photos. I knew that slight dip in his shoulder when he got nervous. Still the same man, but not mine. She followed right behind him, making her entrance like she always did, gliding in with her chin high, smile soft but full. Her hair was swept up earrings delicate, and then I saw them. My nude heels. The Louboutins I let her borrow half a year ago and never got back. I never thought to ask. She laughed as she slid into the booth beside him, same side of the table knees nearly touching. They looked comfortable, like they'd practiced. Elias muttered, "They look rehearsed." I didn't answer, just watched. Every gesture, every glance. Her hand resting close to his shoulder angled in. I waited another beat, then stood. Elias didn't stop me, didn't even shift. I took the longer path, circling the restaurant like I was headed to the restroom. As I passed their booth on the way back, Val looked up. She froze. Her smile faltered for half a breath, then collapsed altogether. Cass turned next, his mouth parted slightly stunned. For a second, no one moved. "Valora," I said, keeping my voice even. "I believe you remember Elias." Elias stepped behind me, calm as ever. He nodded once, not unkind, but not friendly either. Valora opened her mouth, then closed it again. Cass looked like he wanted the floor to open up beneath him. "And you," I said to him, tilting my head slightly, seemed to have forgotten I notice everything. "Claire, what is this?" he asked, his voice cracking. "You tell me," I said. "I'm just here for dinner." I turned toward the maitre d'. He was watching from a respectful distance, hands folded. "Would it be possible to push these two tables together?" I asked quietly. "We seem to have enough history to share." He nodded and returned with two servers, and with a few soft clinks and smooth gestures, the tables became one. Elias slid in beside me again. Cass and Valora sat stiffly across. Her hands were folded in her lap, legs crossed. He looked everywhere but at me. No one spoke. The silence hung thick between us, held in place by linen napkins and silverware. Cass cleared his throat. "It's not what you think," he started, voice low. I was going to tell you. We never meant for..." "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't rewrite the timeline to make me comfortable." Valora let out a breath and shifted in her seat. "This isn't about betrayal," she said. "It's about connection. It just happened." I looked at her. "Connection," I repeated. "Is that what you call forwarding him the reservation I made for our anniversary?" Cass shifted. Valora blinked hard, her mouth twitching. Elias said nothing, but I felt his thumb brush my hand under the table. Steady, grounding. "You didn't fall in love," I said, not raising my voice. "You planned this. You waited for moments I wasn't in the room." Valora's laugh was short. "Come on, Claire. He was never really yours. You two were playing house. You kept one foot out the door. Everyone saw it. I didn't flinch." "You've always confused stealing with winning," I said. "Funny how often that shows up with you." Her smile cracked. "You're still dramatic," she said. "Just like when we were kids. Remember the art contest? You acted like losing that photo spot was the end of the world. I felt it then, old memory sharp and quiet. I hadn't lost. I'd won first place regional. My photo hung on the mantel for 1 week before Dad replaced it with Valora's homecoming photo. He'd said it was more representative of the family. I was 16. I'd cried in the garage with the radio on, loud enough to hide it. She never knew. Until now. I didn't reply. I just pushed my chair back slowly and turned to the maitre d'. "We're done here," I said softly. "Thank you." He gave a polite nod. Elias stood with me. The other side of the table didn't move. The ride back to my apartment was quiet. Elias didn't speak. At the door, he paused. "Text me if you need." I nodded and stepped inside. I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room still in that black dress, scrolling through her photos. Val had posted again her at a Vineyard Cass's, hand on her waist. A dress almost identical to the one I'd picked for our shoot. Same pose, same lighting. Even the caption was mine. Word for word from an email I'd sent Cass Love. Doesn't need to be loud to be forever. I stared at the screen. Not just the photo, the idea. The shape of a story that used to be mine. My phone buzzed. Elias. Still awake, I typed back. They didn't just take him, they took my story. I pulled the old leather journal from the shelf, the one with dried glue on the spine and coffee stains along the edges. I flipped through birthdays and holidays and old teenage worries. Then I found it. 15 years ago. One sentence still sharp in faded ink. "If I ever disappear from my own life, I hope someone notices." I ran my fingers over the page, whispered the words again. I notice now. And once you start noticing, you don't get to unsee. The next morning, I didn't open my laptop. I didn't check my inbox or feed the plants or change out of the t-shirt I'd slept in. I just sat with my coffee going cold, staring out at nothing in particular. The room felt too quiet, like the silence had grown arms and settled around me. By mid-morning, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in months, May Whitmore. We met back in law school, kept in touch loosely over the years, drifting in and out like most people do. Lately, I knew she'd gotten close to Val again. Pilates wine nights, whatever filled their weeks. I hadn't thought much of it. Until now. Her message was short. "Hey, I know this is awkward. Can we talk?" Just us. She picked a cafe over on East 6th. One of those places with real cups and acoustic covers playing overhead. The kind where conversations were meant to be quiet. When I walked in, she was already seated, both hands wrapped tight around a stoneware mug. "Thanks for meeting," she said. I slid into the chair across from her. "What's going on?" She hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "I thought you knew," she said. "I didn't want to get in the middle of it, but—" She tapped a thread open. Valora's name sat bold at the top. The texts came in short bursts. Phrases like, "She clings like a puppy, he can't breathe around her. You should see how he lights up with me." May handed the phone over and looked away. They'd been seeing each other almost a year. I read each message once. No reaction. No questions. Just gave the phone back and said, "Thanks for being honest. That's more than I've gotten from most people." Later that afternoon, I drove to my mother's house. I didn't expect anything. I just wanted to know if I could stand in that kitchen and not fall apart. The house looked the same as it always had. Windows scrubbed clean, porch swept, lemon cleaner, just faint in the air. She opened the door with a surprised smile. "Claire." "Is everything okay? I wanted to talk," I said, keeping my voice even. "About Cassian." She nodded and led me into the kitchen. Tea was already steeping on the counter. "It's not easy," she said after a pause. "But maybe it's not betrayal. Maybe it's just chemistry." I looked at her. "Chemistry," I repeated. Before she could respond, footsteps came from upstairs. Val appeared at the bottom of the staircase wearing one of my old college sweatshirts, sleeves too long for her arms. She had a book in hand and stopped short when she saw me. "Oh," she said, "didn't know you were coming by." The book in her hand caught my eye, a worn copy of a memoir I'd kept under my bed for years, a gift from Dad just before he got sick. She'd dog-eared a page near the center. "You're living here?" I asked. "Just until the wedding," she said without hesitation. "Mom said it's fine." I turned toward our mother. She didn't correct her. "I'll let you both get back to it," I said, making my way toward the front door. Valora followed a step or two behind, probably expecting a parting shot. At the threshold, I stopped. "You may have fooled them," I said quietly. "You may even believe what you're doing is love, but you're building it on ashes." She gave a half smile. "You're just bitter. Let it go. You never made him happy." I didn't blink. "Enjoy him," I said, "but if you try to erase me again, I'll make sure everyone sees who did the burning." She rolled her eyes, then slammed the door behind me. On the way out, something caught my eye, a framed photo sitting on the hallway table. My photo, one I took years ago on our trip to Sedona, but the watermark had been cropped out and a gold plaque underneath read, "Captured by Valora." I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture of it. I don't even remember the drive home. I remember the engine was running and the radio was off. The photo stayed in my head clear as day. I'd taken it, edited it, even had it printed myself. And now it sat in their house renamed. The next 3 days passed like fog. I worked, but not really. Emails were answered, calls returned. But everything I said was short. My voice stayed steady, but something inside had started to shift. Then a message came from Mom. "Can you come by Saturday just to talk calmly?" It was the word calmly that gave it away. Something had been planned. That afternoon I pulled into the gravel driveway, the same sound I'd heard 1,000 times before, but this time it didn't feel like coming home. Inside the living room was already arranged. Mom sat near the edge of the couch like she was mediating something. Dad was across from her, hands folded. Cassian sat on the armrest, legs stiff. And Valora, back straight, legs crossed, looked like she belonged there more than I ever had. "Thanks for coming," Mom said. I didn't respond, just took the empty chair. "We want to move forward," she continued. "There's no sense dragging out the tension. The engagement party is in 2 weeks. Can we agree not to create any scenes?" I looked at her. "By scenes, do you mean telling the truth?" Dad looked up from his lap. "There's no reason to dig up more than what's already done." Cassian shifted, cleared his throat, then said nothing. Valora smiled lightly. "We just want to celebrate. Start fresh. The deposit's taken care of. Honeymoon's booked. It's all set." Something landed then. 2 years ago, Val had called me in a panic. Said she needed help, urgent medical bills, couldn't tell Mom, no one else to ask. I'd wired her $18,000. No questions, no paperwork. I never saw a hospital bill, never saw a scar, just a new apartment and a Pinterest board titled, "Forever with Him." I didn't speak. I didn't need to. My body already knew. I felt it settle like weight behind my ribs. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a thick white envelope, embossed, gold trim. She held it out to me like a gift. "I still want you there," she said softly. "It would mean a lot." I took the envelope, looked at the lettering. Our family name printed across the front like nothing was broken. Then I handed it back. "I won't be attending the celebration of theft." Mom inhaled sharply. "Claire, don't do this. She's your sister." I looked at her, and I was your daughter first. I stood calm. No final words, just the weight of everything unsaid rising behind me as I walked out. Outside, the clouds had started to gather. I leaned against the car, let the air settle in my chest. Then I pulled out my phone and typed one sentence to Elias. "It's time. Can we talk Monday legal?" Elias didn't ask questions when I stepped into his office that Monday morning. I was already in the lobby when he arrived, folder in hand, the one I hadn't opened since I pulled it from my filing cabinet the night before. He gave me a nod, held the door, and motioned for me to follow. The room smelled like worn leather and old coffee, comfortable, steady. It reminded me of when we used to study together in the quiet back room of the law library back before degrees and job titles, before everything became a performance. I set the folder on his desk and slid into the chair across from him. "I want you to see this." He didn't say a word, just flipped the cover open and began reading. Inside were screenshots of the wire transfer, $18,000 labeled personal. The transfer I made to Val 2 years ago when she called in tears saying she needed it for an urgent medical procedure. I'd believed her. I never asked for details. I never asked for anything. Beneath that was a copy of a business proposal Cassian had once asked me to review. He told me it was just a draft, a practice plan for a friend's boutique idea, nothing official. Elias looked up. "You think they used your name?" I nodded once. "Not just my name, my money." He reached for a slim drawer in his desk, pulled out a short stack of printed LLC documents, and slid one across the surface toward me. "This is Valora's startup, right?" I scanned the page. Midway down, bold in the registration details, was the line, "Initial angel investor listed as OM through cash and shell management firm." My initials. I leaned closer. It wasn't just a coincidence. The signature at the bottom matched one I'd used once years ago on a lease agreement Cass had helped me fill out. They lifted it, I said, copied my signature, used it to launch her company. Elias sat back, arms crossed. "You can sue, and you'd win. But if you do it now, you'll be painted as jealous. They'll spin it, make it personal. You'd look like someone who's angry about a breakup." He paused, thinking. "But if you wait, if you move quietly, they won't see it coming." That afternoon, we drafted the first set of filings, no lawsuits, just paperwork to confirm my contribution. A formal notice logged in public records. Quiet friction. Enough to slow things down if they tried to expand or seek funding. By 3 o'clock, I walked out of his office with the folder under one arm and something else I hadn't carried in weeks, clarity. The sun had started to dip low behind the buildings. I stopped once at a crosswalk and looked up at the glass towers stretching over downtown. Then I turned onto a side street, walked 3 blocks, and stood outside Valora's boutique. Her name was etched in gold script across the window, Marin and Company, like it had always belonged to her. The glass was polished clean and bright. I stepped inside holding a soft folded scarf, one she'd lent me in college. It still smelled faintly of sandalwood. The girl at the front desk looked up fast, eyes wide. "Oh, hi. Did you see the email?" I paused. "What email?" "Our payment system flagged something." Stripe froze the account. Some kind of legal notice tied to an investor name. "Yours." Before I could say a word, Valora stepped out from the back. Her smile faltered the moment she saw me. She looked like someone who didn't expect the wind to knock twice. I held out the scarf. "Figured you might want this back." She didn't move. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. Funny thing about trying to erase someone, sometimes their name shows up bolder the second time. Then I turned and left. No shouting, no explanation, just the soft chime of the door behind me. That night, I was at home tucked under a blanket on the couch when the message came in. No name, no profile picture. Just one line, just a heads up. "They're planning to go public first, discredit you before you go legal." I read it twice, then closed my laptop and stood. Walked slowly to my closet and opened the doors wide. The dress I chose wasn't flashy. It was solid deep navy, with clean lines and a high neckline. I pinned my hair up, slipped into black heels, and pressed a hand against my ribs once, just to steady the rise and fall. The gala was held in one of Austin's newer hotel ballrooms, all polished brass and candlelight, a space built for networking and speeches. Everyone wore their best version of confidence. No one questioned me when I arrived. Sometimes, if you walk like you belong, the door doesn't stop you. Inside, a quiet string arrangement played. I accepted a glass of sparkling water and drifted toward the back. There she was, Valora on stage, standing beneath a soft spotlight, her voice warm and rehearsed. And so she said, one hand at her chest, "I started from scratch. No shortcuts. Just hard work and the people who believed in me." The screen behind her lit up with a slideshow. Childhood photos, boutique shots, her brand's mission statement. Then in large script, Marine, self-made, founder. In the corner of the room, I caught Cassian talking to a PR rep. He leaned in, voice low, brows furrowed just enough. "She spiraled after the breakup," he said. "We've only ever wished her peace." That was the moment. I walked forward quiet through the crowd, just as the MC returned to the mic. "And now," he said, "we'd like to thank those who helped pave the way for women in leadership." Starting with Claire Jennings. A few claps, a few turned heads. I stepped forward, took the microphone, and smiled lightly. "I believe stories matter," I said, keeping my voice even, especially the ones where someone gets written out and then writes back in. I tapped the screen of my phone. The room's speakers picked up Cassian's voice crackling just slightly. "She won't fight back. She doesn't have it in her. We'll just shift everything slowly. By the time she notices, it'll be ours." Soft gasps. Then I held up the notarized founding document of Marin and Combe. "Filed January 3rd, 2 years ago," I said. Initial investor, Claire Jennings. Next came the original marketing deck, the same one Cass had asked me to edit back when I thought we were building something together. Valora had frozen midway down the steps toward the mic. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone," I said. "I'm here to correct the record." Then I handed the mic back to the host, stepped down, and walked out without another word. Behind me, the room filled with noise, whispers, flashes, movement, but I didn't turn back. I let the door close quietly behind me. Outside, the night air was cool, clean. I reached for my phone, heart steady. By morning, the video had gone everywhere. The clip from the gala had been online less than 12 hours before it started gaining traction. Someone had caught the whole thing, my words. The documents Valora frozen mid-step and posted it without any filters or edits. I watched it once from beginning to end, just to be sure I hadn't imagined the stillness in that room when the recording played. By noon, my inbox had shifted. Journalists reached out asking for quotes. Old clients sent quiet notes. One of them just said, "I always knew that brand had your fingerprints." But it wasn't just the emails. A few sponsors quietly pulled back from Marin and Combe without statements. One of them removed Valora's photo from their homepage that same afternoon. No press release, just absence. Elias called that evening. Stripe froze her account again, he said, and the investment fund that was circling last month. They're stepping back for now. Too much risk. They want the ownership structure clarified. I nodded into the phone, then realized he couldn't see me. "Okay," I said. "It's not over," he said, "but it's moving." I sat down slowly on the edge of the couch, not out of shock, just to feel the stillness of the moment. The next morning, a new message came in. No name attached, just a forwarded voice recording. The subject line read, "You should hear this." I hesitated for a second, then tapped play. It was Cassian's voice, clear, easy, like he was speaking to someone he trusted. "She won't fight back," he said. Claire doesn't have it in her. We'll just shift everything over slowly. By the time she notices, it'll be ours." A short pause. Then Valora's laugh. She always wanted things to be fair. That's her flaw. The file ended there. I checked the file details. It had been saved under an assistant's folder at Marin & Company just 3 days earlier. 3 hours later, another email arrived. This one from someone named R. No full name, just an apology written in plain language. "She made us erase you from everything. I'm sorry. I couldn't keep doing it. I didn't write back. Just left the email open on my screen while the afternoon sun moved across the floor." That night they showed up. Cassian knocked first. When I opened the door, he was standing there in a navy button-down, sleeves rolled halfway up. Behind him, Valora stood with her arms crossed, no makeup, no performance. "We didn't come to argue," he said. "I didn't move. Didn't invite them in. If you pull the claim," he continued, "we'll make it right. We'll clarify everything publicly. Just say it was a misunderstanding." His voice was soft, practiced. The kind of voice you use when you're trying to negotiate with someone you think is tired. Valora spoke next. "I didn't mean to ruin anything," she said, voice thin. "I didn't think it would go this far." I looked at both of them quiet for a long moment. "You didn't ruin me," I said. "You freed me." Neither of them responded. Valora looked down. "I don't even know who you are anymore." I nodded. "Maybe that's the problem. You never did." When they turned to leave, I closed the door without sound. The air in my apartment held still after they left. I didn't turn on any lights. I just stood there, hand on the doorknob, and waited for the room to settle again. A week passed. Sponsors continued to pull away. A podcast episode aired about founder fraud, and though no names were mentioned, the photos shown in the video were clear. Cassian stepped down quietly from the firm he'd co-founded. Valora made one attempt at a clarification post, then deleted it the next day. Comments had poured in too fast. One afternoon, Elias forwarded another update. Someone had uncovered the full investor list filed under Marin & Company. My initials still listed, still legal. But none of that was the moment that stayed with me. It was the night I walked past a coffee shop on South Congress and saw my photo, the photo printed in a small local arts magazine. This time it was credited to me. No plaque, no false name, just Claire Jennings Sedona, 2016. That was enough. The clip hadn't stopped spreading. By the end of the second week, it had been shared by a business ethics podcast, picked up in a write-up by a women's leadership blog, and stitched into a dozen videos on social media. They called it a reckoning. I didn't call it anything. I still went to work, still made my morning coffee, still walked home through the same stretch of East Austin with my keys tucked between my fingers like I always had. But the silence around me had changed. One night, just before 9, a different kind of message came through. This one wasn't anonymous. It was from Valora's assistant, the same one who'd sent the voice recording. Her name was Rachel, and her email was simple. "They're planning something. A press event. Possibly a launch. Cassian's trying to get ahead of whatever's left. Thought you should know." I stared at the screen for a long time before forwarding it to Elias. Less than an hour later, he called. "She's right," he said. "There's a private event listed at the downtown Four Seasons. Business leaders press invites. It's not in Valora's name. Cassian's coordinating. What are they calling it, new chapter?" he said. "That's the theme." He didn't have to say more. I could already see it, their pivot, their reframe, a glossy rewrite before the dust settled. "Send me the details," I said. "I'll handle it." Friday came fast. I'd picked out what I was going to wear earlier that week. Clean lines, dark green, structured shoulders. No accessories, no flash. The kind of outfit that lets you speak without raising your voice. The hotel lobby was quiet when I arrived. A few name tags at the check-in desk, a list of attendees printed and flipped backward. No one stopped me at the ballroom entrance. I didn't need to be on the list. I'd been here long before it was made. Inside, the lighting was soft warm, the kind meant for cameras. I slipped into the back just as a woman from a regional PR firm stepped up to the mic to introduce the next speakers, Cassian and Valora. Together, they walked on stage side by side. Cassian spoke first. "We believe every setback is a lesson," he said, "and we're proud to move forward with integrity and vision." Valora took over smoothly. "This journey has been about growth, reinvention, and yes, learning who belongs beside you when things get quiet." Behind them, a slideshow began images of their shared projects, scenes from the boutique photos, from what looked like a new co-branded workspace downtown. I waited until the lights dimmed again for the final slide. Then I moved. People noticed right away. The shift in the room. I didn't go toward the stage. I walked to the side table where the printed launch packets sat in neat rows. I picked one up, flipped it open, and held it just long enough for the nearest photographer to notice. Then I turned to the small podium near the back where a microphone had been set for press questions. I didn't ask one. I cleared my throat. Calm, quiet. Before this event wraps, I said I'd like to clarify a few things. Cassian turned toward me first, then Valora. She didn't move. "Some of you may know me. Most of you don't. My name is Claire Jennings. My name appears on the financial filings for the boutique that helped launch this brand. My design materials appear in the original proposal Cassian submitted for funding. My signature, which I never gave, was used to secure the first LLC. I held up a copy of the filing, the same one Elias had pulled weeks ago. A few people murmured. One man near the back raised his phone. "I'm not here to disrupt," I continued. "I'm here to make sure that what's mine doesn't disappear just because someone else said it louder." Cassian stepped forward. "Claire, this isn't the place. It wasn't yours to build on," I said. "It wasn't yours to rename." Valora stood beside him, but her posture had shifted. She wasn't meeting anyone's eyes. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't wait for them to speak. I walked out the same way I walked in, straight-backed quiet, without asking permission. The next morning, the press didn't report on a launch. They reported on the filing. The contract image appeared beside headlines that used words like fraud, unauthorized transfer, investigation pending. I didn't say anything to anyone for the rest of the day. I made soup, cleaned out a closet, took a walk by the river before sunset. Late that night, I opened a new email from Rachel. She'd attached one last file, a photo taken months ago. It was a snapshot of my original marketing deck printed out marked up in blue pen, my notes, my sketches. In the margin, Valora had written one line, "Just remove her name before we share this." I saved the photo, then closed the laptop. That was the last time I opened anything with their names on it. The work was done. The week after the press event felt quieter than I expected. No calls from reporters, no questions at the cafe. The noise didn't reach me this time. It turned inward toward them. By Tuesday, 3 of Valora's brand partners had issued separate statements. Nothing sharp, just careful wording about alignment reassessment and internal review. One of them took down their campaign completely. The page now led to a 404 error. Cassian's name was removed from the website of the firm he co-founded. Someone had archived the original version and sent it to me anonymously. I didn't open the link. I didn't need to. On Thursday morning, Elias forwarded a message from the legal department of the business registry. The voice recording, along with Rachel's documentation, had triggered an audit. The boutique's financial history, including the initial investor documents, was under formal review. Stripe wouldn't be releasing funds until the audit closed. The fund that had once been interested in expanding Marin & Koning sent a brief note withdrawing their intent to invest, citing unresolved structural discrepancies. That afternoon, I passed the boutique while walking home from the post office. The lights were off. The open sign had been flipped but forgotten in the window. I didn't stop. just glanced once as I crossed the street. A man in a delivery uniform stood at the front door with a clipboard waiting. The only person who reached out directly was Rachel. Her message came late that night. They cut me out this morning. No warning. Just told me not to come back. I don't regret sending the files. I thought you should know. I typed a reply but didn't send it. I read it once, then closed the screen. Some things didn't need to be explained twice. Friday came, and with it an envelope slid under my apartment door. White, thick paper, my name written across the front in block letters. Inside was a single note. We're willing to make this go away. Statement correction, shared ownership. Public silence in exchange for private resolution. There was no signature, but I knew who had sent it. I left the note on the counter untouched. That evening, Cassian came by again. He didn't ring, just knocked once, hands in his pockets when I opened the door. I know you don't owe me anything, he said, but I want to say I'm sorry. I waited. I thought I could manage everything, he continued. I didn't mean to take from you. I just thought you'd understand. I leaned against the frame. Understand what? He hesitated. That sometimes people move on. I nodded slowly. And sometimes people get caught moving sideways. He looked down. If you tell them it was just confusion, if you pull the filing, maybe we can all just let it go. I didn't raise my voice. You already let it go, Cass. You let go of the truth. You let go of my name. He didn't speak again, just stood there, unsure of what to say, then turned and left without another word. That was the last time I saw him in person. The following morning, Elias called. It's done, he said. The boutique's flagged, the trademarks are being reviewed, and you're officially listed on the filings moving forward. They can't erase you now. I thanked him, but neither of us lingered. That weekend, I went to a small community gala hosted at the downtown cultural center. Nothing extravagant, just local artists, grand announcements, soft music playing from rented speakers. I hadn't planned to go, but one of my former clients had sent an invite with a handwritten note. You showed me what ownership really looks like. Would love to see you there. I wore something simple. No makeup. Just earrings my mother had given me years ago, back before the lines had been drawn. When I arrived, I stood near the back, watching people pass between tables with small plates and plastic glasses. No one approached me, not at first. Then I noticed a folded napkin on the buffet table shaped into a leaf. The same fold I'd made for my first anniversary dinner with Cassian. One I'd shown to Valora during a family visit, and she'd shrugged off saying it was too fussy. Now it sat quietly between bowls of fruit and a tray of crackers. Elias was there near the corner holding a glass of iced tea. When he saw me, he lifted it slightly. Didn't think you'd show, he said. I wasn't sure I would. He nodded toward the program being passed around. Page 3. I flipped it open. In the section listing new art scholarships, I saw it. The Jennings Grant for Emerging Creatives. Established in memory of Douglas Jennings, my father. I didn't say anything for a while, just read the line again. When the crowd began to thin and the music softened, Elias, and I walked along the sidewalk outside. The air smelled like warm pavement and fresh-cut grass. He asked, "Do you feel any different now?" I thought for a moment. "Not different," I said, "just clearer." We didn't speak again for the rest of the walk. A month after the last gala, life settled into a different kind of quiet. Not the silence that came from being left out, or the hush that follows heartbreak, but something steadier. My name stopped showing up in the headlines, and I no longer checked for new emails from lawyers or old friends. The world, it seemed, had moved on. I walked through my days with more ease, grocery runs, client meetings, small dinners with neighbors. I still passed by the boutique sometimes, but the lights inside stayed dim, the windows papered over with a sign that read, "Closed for audit." I didn't linger. There was nothing left for me there. Valora never called. My mother didn't write, and there were no more surprise knocks on my door. Apology messages trickled in from distant relatives and acquaintances, each one a little softer than the last. Some people said they were shocked by what happened. Others admitted they always saw the shape of things even if they never said it aloud. I read them, then let them go. I realized closure was not something anyone could give me. It was something I'd have to claim for myself. Some endings don't arrive with fanfare. They just settle in gentle as dusk. I started noticing the small things that felt like belonging, the hum of my apartment in the morning, the warmth of coffee in my hands, the way sunlight fell through the blinds in the late afternoon. I framed a photo from the gala, the one a friend had snapped while I stood on stage mid-sentence, no doubt in my eyes. It wasn't about power or winning. It was about recognizing myself again after so long. One evening I sat out on my balcony, a soft breeze in the air, the city lights blinking along the river. I thought about everything I'd lost, but also what I'd managed to keep: my name, my work, my sense of what's right. Some stories don't end with revenge or a public reckoning. Sometimes justice is simply walking away with your dignity, choosing not to carry someone else's version of your life. The ones who tried to erase me had to face what they'd done in their own time. That weight no longer belonged to me. Looking back, I'm reminded that real strength doesn't always look loud or defiant. Sometimes it's just the quiet act of refusing to be written out of your own story. We can't always stop people from taking what isn't theirs, but we can choose how we respond. We can claim our place even if it's only in the way we stand or the way we keep going. If you've ever had to reclaim your story or found yourself starting over after someone tried to erase you, I hope you know you're not alone. Leave a note in the comments and let me know where you're listening from. And if you're still searching for closure, take your time. Sometimes the softest endings hold the truest justice.